In the interest of full disclosure, I was one of those people who really liked the first Equestria Girls movie. That being said, I cannot tell you a single thing that it did well. My logical brain has tried and failed repeatedly to convince me that it's a pile of shit with some of the worst breakneck pacing I've ever seen. I can only think of one plot point that isn't resolved within 2 minutes of it coming up. And even that was stupid because every scene I was thinking, why don't you just steal the crown? I mean, you stole it at the beginning of the movie, and you're gonna steal it at the end of the movie, so why don't you just go steal it right now? I mean, Twilight's an outcast, they hate each other, they're friends again, Twilight's popular, the auditorium is trash, Twilight's in trouble, Twilight's off the hook, the auditorium is fixed, crown, spike, demon, rainbows, not to mention that nothing in the movie makes sense. And don't worry if you haven't seen it, because there's a pretty accurate recap playing over the opening credits of this movie. It's a bad movie, but I still liked it. Rainbow Rocks, on the other hand, is a legitimately good movie. This is the best thing Megan McCarthy wrote since, The Crystal Empire. Boy, she sure has been in a downward spiral lately. And I hope this marks the end of it. And with that out of the way, let's get into spoiler territory. Why is Rainbow Dash a bitch in this movie? I mean, she keeps saying, my band.
It makes my band totally awesome! I'll just sing. Like, as in lead singer? Cause that's usually my gig.
All because I'm the lead singer of my band.
This being my band and all.
And there's this scene where she's playing a video game with Applejack, and she just turns it off before she loses.
Hey! I was about to beat you!
I think that was kind of unnecessary. And logically, I should understand that this isn't the same Rainbow Dash from Ponyville. So this version of Dash isn't actually the element of loyalty. But just remembering Hurricane Fluttershy, or Wonderbolt's Academy, or even Rainbow Falls, it's clear that Rainbow Dash knows that being with her friends is the most important thing.
I'm always gonna choose my friends.
She does tend to get overly competitive, but in this movie she's being all bitchy before the Battle of the Bands even exists.
Oh, your band? Duh!
Towards the end of the movie, her bitchiness is eventually what makes the plot come to a head.
I could win this thing as a solo act, and everybody knows it.
Io me ne frego.
But there's no reason that it had to start before the Dazzlings got to the school.
I was wondering if we could maybe play the song I wrote. We'll get to it.
And that's my one really big problem with the movie. If they had just changed a couple of lines, it would have seemed like the Battle of the Band was making Rainbow Dash's competitive nature kick in.
They'll never even know what hit.
And that's when she started being a bitch to all her friends. All the other characters had spats, but those were a result of the competition.
We need to sound good. Is there some reason that concept seems to escape you?
I think those conflicts were well executed, but it's just Rainbow Dash messing the whole thing up by being the one who started it. As it stands, they would have had the exact same falling out whether or not the Dazzlings were even there.
I write songs. You just never let us play any of them.
Ultimately, it's not a very good sign if the main conflict in the movie isn't related to the actions of the villains. Speaking of the villains, the Dazzlings really put this series in perspective in a sort of counterproductive way. They gain power by spreading ill will wherever they go and feeding off the resulting negativity. Which is a very cool concept, especially in a show called Friendship is Magic. Even though Friendship is Magic was dropped from the title card of this movie. Presumably, the less friendship there is, the more powerful they get. So you'd think these three would make perfect foils for the main six. But really they aren't. This movie might serve as a rude awakening to some people, and if it didn't, this review might. But My Little Pony's not really a show about love and tolerance. I mean, I still don't know where that saying came from. The main six don't really have friends outside of the other five. Except Pinkie, but she's friends with so many people, ponies, that it's impossible for them to mean anything to her. Fluttershy is a recluse, Applejack's friends are her family, Twilight as well. Twilight, Rarity's friends are all superficial pricks, and Rainbow Dash is the only character who actually had friends, and look at how that ended. Twice. And that's halfway why I love the show, and halfway why I hate the two-parters. Because all the two-part adventure arcs try really hard to play up the whole friendship is magic angle, but these aren't friendly people, ponies.
So I say live and let live, that's my motto. Anyone who can't go along with that, take him outside and shoot the motherfucker.
Yes, they're friends with each other, and as friends they help each other solve their own problems. They have realistic relationships and relatable struggles, but the fact that they're friends always shines through in the end, and that's what makes the Slice of Life episode so amazing. Well, most of the Slice of Life episodes anyway. The reason I find the two-parters so dull is because they all boil down to some form of we need to be friendly so that our magic can out-magic the bad magic. This movie acts as a clever deconstruction of the whole friendship ex machina mess. At least I think it does. No, I know it does. It's 100% factual. Shut up. It's the main six being so stingy with their magic of friendship that allowed the Dazzlings to take over the whole school so easily. The main six are friends, but these other people, ponies, fuck! not so much. Using the friendship ex machina canon is never a good storytelling tool. It's pretty much just an excuse for the writers to say, fuck you, we're running out of time, we need to wrap this shit up. But here, it makes some sense on a thematic level. About halfway through the movie, they go straight for the nuclear friendship option, and it doesn't work. And then they say some crap about singing and music.
The Sirens' magic comes from their music. So maybe you have to use the same kind of magic to defeat them.
And now that's probably all bullshit.
Or maybe not.
But I think this is a kind of examination of the implications of Celestia's teachings. You know, training and conditioning sometimes might have an effect on how you behave. And I think as of the Season 4 finale, Celestia finally beat all the jolly cooperation out of Twilight. Hey, you know, that reference actually worked out a little better than I thought it would. Celestia's MO tends to be something like separate Twilight from her friends. Except in Larson's episodes.
I need you to wield the elements of harmony once again.
But why us?
And this happens far too often to be coincidence.
It must be you and you alone.
She's going. We're going with her.
I'm afraid I can't let you go.
But with the help of my friends?
I'm sorry, Princess Twilight.
And now Twilight's broken down to the point where she doesn't reach out to anyone for help even though she needs it.
I have to be able to do this.
She thinks standing in a straight line is all it takes to unleash the magic of friendship.
I don't understand. We're all together again. Why isn't this working?
Hey, I'm standing close to people I like. Why aren't all my problems going away? Twilight's role in the movie dragged the whole thing down a little. Unlike in the first Equestria Girls movie where the opening scene in Equestria was the best part, the scene in Equestria this time around sort of brings to light a whole bunch of the things that make me really worry about the future of the series as a whole. They do this establishing shot of the main six, and Rarity's just polishing her throne. Every other time they've cut to Rarity for no reason, she's been making a dress, or preparing to make a dress, or doing something fashion related. And Rainbow Dash is presumably just flying around in circles overhead trying to stave off the boredom. If this round table really represents the future of the main six, we are gonna have a bad time. I mean, Pinkie Pie is only gonna be able to pretend that paperwork is fun for so long until she ends up hanging herself with a bunch of balloons. I really don't want the series to end that way. Anyway, by the end of the movie they figure out that the reason the friendship magic wouldn't work is because they haven't been friendly all movie. Big surprise, you actually have to be nice to your friends to make the magic of friendship work. So they stop being bitches to each other. But their magic of friendship only starts working once they all stop being a bitch to Sunset Shimmer. I mean, come on, guys. She accepted the magic of friendship into her heart at the end of the last movie. And it took you 5 this long to get with the program? What was I supposed to be talking about? Oh, the Dazzlings, right. So, they have the power to make people do whatever they want.
Telling people to do what we want.
The opening scene in this movie is a pretty good way to introduce the villain. It's not flim-flam good, but it's pretty damn fine nonetheless. Just so long as you're willing to ignore a couple of issues for narrative flow.
Oh, I wish we'd never been banished to this awful place.
Like how it's referenced that Star Swirl the Bearded banished them, meaning that they've been in the human world for upwards of 1,000 years.
The energy in this world isn't the same as in Equestria.
And they've probably had this exact same conversation thousands of times already. But the audience had to know these things, so I guess I can let it slide. What's a little harder to forgive is that all this green gas looks like it's emanating from people's butts. But I digress. This first sentence does 2 very important things to make the audience take these 3 seriously as villains. First, mentioning that it takes effort to use their powers.
That was barely worth the effort.
And second, referring to all these farts they absorbed as food.
I'm tired of fast food. I need a meal.
It makes them sympathetic. If your villains du jour have to do what they're doing in order to survive, it makes you feel a little conflicted for rooting against them. And manipulating your audience into caring more about the story is always a good thing. They're opportunistic and intelligent. At least this one's pretty smart.
They're idiots.
She took this scene where Twilight made an ass of herself and turned it around on them without even using her mind control singing.
A little cocky though, aren't they? Claiming there won't really be a battle.
It makes me wonder why I ever thought Tyrek was a good villain. Come to think of it, these 3 are the exact opposite of him. All their likability comes from their concept and how they were used in the plot. All Tyrek's likability comes from his personality. Or, well, it comes from this one scene where he talked Discord into joining him. But the only way to make this episode even remotely watchable is to assume that Discord had the whole betrayal, redemption, friendship key box thing planned out from the start. So, this scene didn't really have a purpose, did it? Wow, Tyrek kinda sucked. And I mean that literally. He sucked and sucked and sucked until there was nothing left to suck, and then he sucked some more. On the other hand, these girls sing a song to influence the free will of a cafeteria full of students.
Oh, they're that kind of off!
Yeah, Pinky, how dare they do the exact same thing you guys did in the last movie, but where they fall apart of their personalities. They're a little one note. Get it? Like, one note? So you've got the dumb one, the bitchy one, who committed the ultimate sin of getting my hopes up with this little comment.
Just follow my lead.
Or my lead.
But alas, no. There's no power struggle, or dissent in the ranks. They just needed a character to directly state the nature of the Siren's powers.
Stir up some trouble and then feed off the negative energy.
Again, and then Twilight does it.
Who had the power to charm ponies with their music.
And then they sing a song that explicitly states how the Siren's powers work.
Now you're falling under a spell.
I guess this movie is aimed at kids, and kids are stupid. But I'm not a stupid kid, so it does stick out to me that they hammered in the exact same exposition 4 times. Especially when it was clearly and more subtly revealed in the first scene of the movie. Hearing the singing, seeing the arguing, watching them absorb all the green gas. It doesn't take a genius to put that together. And finally, you got the de facto leader, whose character never really evolves beyond being the one who came up with the plan. And it was a good plan, so I'll take what I can get. But the end goal of their plan didn't really make any sense. This is another one of those times where the "it's a kids show" thing comes up, because you can't exactly have your bad guys do something traumatizingly evil if the audience is supposed to be full of 10-year-olds. Their end goal is to make everyone adore them. But don't they feed off of negativity?
Feed off the negative energy.
So wouldn't they want hate? How does everyone idolizing them spread strife?
No, I love you more! I love you more!
It all just feels like Bad Guy 101. Rob them of their free will, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. Like Nightmare Moon wanted all the crops to die because of lack of photosynthesis.
The younger unicorn refused to lower the moon to make way for the dawn.
Discord wanted all the crops to die because they were being watered with chocolate milk. Chrysalis and Sombra wanted the crops to die because you can't grow anything on the side of a mountain or in the snow. And Tarek wanted all the crops to die because he hates landscapers. The Dazzlings just want to be adored? They want their subjects to like their ruler? That doesn't sound so bad, when it doesn't fit in with their motivation to spread negativity. I mean, this doesn't break the movie or anything. Just thought it was worth bringing up. So the personalities are weak, their plan was solid, but their end goal didn't make much sense. The conflict between the main 5 was bubbling under the surface the whole movie and could have easily erupted without the Dazzlings even being involved. But if you think about it, without the Sirens as an enemy to defeat, they wouldn't have had a reason to make up at the end of the movie. If this was just Rain Booms,
The Rain Blossoms, or whatever they're called.
These chicks don't even know the name of my band.
versus Trixie in the finals, and she pulled the same sabotage, the stakes wouldn't have been high enough for Sunset Shimmer to step in and defuse the situation. And if that didn't happen, they'd never be friends again. All that being said, they were still better bad guys than Sunset Shimmer from the last movie, which is sort of a shame because Sunset Shimmer is the reason this movie even matters. And if her introduction to the series wasn't so wrought with stupidity, she could be one of the best characters. But considering the direction they ended up taking her character, I sort of trust Megan McCarthy implicitly at this point, even though the last few episodes she wrote were, utter garbage. This whole movie was dedicated to the arc of Sunset struggling against people's preconceived notions of her. After, well, an undisclosed duration of time, I assume that what the Sirens saw at the beginning of the movie was this scene? But that would mean that all of the events of Season 4 happened in between then and now. People still look at Sunset Shimmer and see the girl who ruined the fall formal and tried to enslave all the students, and never went to jail for it. Anyway, after her completely rushed and sloppy change of heart at the end of the last movie, all she wants now is to be accepted. But the only people who will look past her past are the ones who foiled her evil plans in the first place. And, interestingly enough, the ones she fucked with the most over the course of her stint at Canterlot High.
I just can't help but get the feeling that Sunset Shimmer had something to do with it.
And even they occasionally let their insensitivity flag fly.
And tried to turn everyone here to teenage zombies for your own personal liking.
I was just using him to become more popular. The old me really was just awful, wasn't she?
Becoming as popular can be.
There's so much for making a good first impression. Ruined by some power-crazed lunatic.
It's not like we haven't tangled with dark magic before and totally whooped its sorry butt. When she turned into that horrifyingly awful winged monster.
It's the antithesis of something like Magic Duel or Inspiration Manifestation, where all the evil stuff can be passed off as some sort of corruption that goes away and then they're all better. Sunset is in a very interesting position of having to actually take responsibility for her actions and live with the fallout, something that we never got to see out of Discord. She's remorseful. She's a character who feels the weight of her past in every scene that she's in, and is trying to earn her way back into the good graces of the people she hurt. And the whole movie is devoted to showing us this. It's not just jammed in as some afterthought in the last 2 minutes of the episode. Let us actually see the character growth with our own eyes.
It wasn't a fit of Joe's rage!
This is the shit we want to see. Not so much this. This whole character arc is so close to perfect, and I only have one minor nitpick about it. It's in the sleepover scene where there's this fucking brilliant part where Sunset and Twilight are talking about living up to expectations, and they both say,
The last thing you want to do is let everybody down.
and my nitpick with this line is that Sunset Shimmer really should have said prove everyone right, because everybody's expecting her to go back to her evil ways.
I knew she was still trouble!
So in a more literal sense, letting everybody down is exactly what she wants to do. But like I said, it's such a minor issue that it doesn't affect how much I enjoyed the movie in the slightest. And besides, there's this scene later on where the Dazzlings are all talking shit to her, and the range of emotion that crosses her face is probably the best scene in the whole series. Another thing I loved in this movie were the humorous aspects of it. Not the jokes so much, those were all kind of stale.
Who could possibly need this much whipped cream?
Not that that's really a big deal. There are only like 3 or 4 episodes of MLP where I think all of the jokes actually make the episode better. But Rainbow Rocks was hilarious in the abstract. Once they figure out the Twilight spell probably won't work. Hold on, did I not mention the spell? There's a spell. It comes up after Twilight's friendship firing squad fails. They decide they need some sort of combination of notes and words to act as a catalyst for their rainbow friendship powers.
You mean like a song? Uh-huh.
So instead of mentioning that pretty much every song they play manifests their rainbow magic, they put the burden of writing a musical counterspell on Twilight, because they probably want her to go double alicorn. But her song sucks, and they put all their effort into hiding the fact that they have any magic.
So, about 20% less cool.
But the Sirens figured that out like 10 minutes ago.
Magic!
And it's also not even a secret or anything.
You wouldn't have needed to bring in some magical ringer to have half a chance.
And here's the downside to not structuring your reviews in chronological order. Here are a bunch of random comments that didn't fit anywhere else. So in the first Equestria Girls movie, Flash Century was my favorite character.
We've got to stop bumping into each other like this.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Now he's just sort of lame.
The interval between the 2 points is defined as the square root of the sum of the squares of the separation between the points along 3 spatial dimensions.
No, Twilight. You're wrong. You used this definition to define an integral between 2 points. You guys missed a great opportunity to subliminally teach a bunch of kids calculus. So, did Rainbow Dash transform in front of a green screen and add those effects in post? It's a major pet peeve of mine when people use footage from the movie and try to pass it off like it was candidly filmed. Rarity. The 60s called. They said schwing. 60s. The early 90s called. And I don't know why they thought they could reach you with this number.
See me dominate, 'cause I'm powerful and great. See me dominate, 'cause I'm powerful and great.
Wait, did Trixie just play the same song in the last 2 rounds of the Battle of the Bands?
I got tricks up my sleeve.
Also, 10 out of 10 on the sleeves there, DHX. So right at the end of the movie, one of the stupid nitpicks I was gonna make got completely abated. After this scene that's lifted directly from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. No, I mean seriously, look at these comparisons. That's Scott Pilgrim. You're not being slick, DHX. Well, anyway, the point is that their jewel thingies break. And it's revealed that they're completely tone deaf.
We will be adored.
Now, my complaint was going to be that none of the Dazzlings were playing instruments.
We ain't a band, bitch. We don't play instruments.
But as it turns out, their magical crystals were just mesmerizing everyone into thinking they were hearing awesome music. And yes, the music was awesome. That last song was probably my favorite.
Shine like rainbow.
And ignoring Snips and Snails rapping, I would say Awesome As I Wanna Be is the worst song in the movie. Which is probably the point. And you can just tell that everyone is bored to death while playing it because it's not giving them anything to do except wait for Rainbow Dash.
I should cut his mic off when the music starts.
Okay, lay off the D12 a little. I also doubt it's a coincidence that the title of the song is one umlaut away from awesome as a wannabe. Oh, and I should mention part of this scene doesn't make sense. Rainbow almost activates her friendship powers despite, you know. And this can be sort of justified if you say that maybe she enjoys playing the guitar so much that she forgot about how bitchy she was being, or that she's completely ignorant to how she's been making her friends feel all movie. Or, you know, that this whole concept was poorly thought out, but hey, I'm trying to enjoy this movie, so I'll defend what I can. Then after what I already mentioned with my favorite song in the movie, there's a post-credit sequence where Nick Fury asks Twilight Sparkle if she's ready to join the Avengers Initiative, and Howard the Duck is there for some reason. Anyway, it's a sequel hook, or a hook to tie into a companion TV series. Either way, after a movie that was actually pretty damn good, I'm really looking forward to more.